You ever have one of those days where you know deep in your bones somebody's about to get exposed and you just hope it isn't you? Well, the morning. The police car pulled into our office complex and the HOA president clipboard held up like she was parting the Red Sea, planted herself in front of it, shouting into the cop's radio about illegal occupancy. I knew right then and there it wasn't going to be me. See, I had something she didn't, the original ownership documents for every brick, every square foot of that complex she thought she ran. You should have seen her face. She looked like she'd bitten into a lemon and found a nail. I'm getting ahead of myself, but let's back up a sec. Have you ever gone toe-to-toe with a power-drunk HOA? If you have, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from, because believe me, this story's just getting warmed up. 6 months. That's how long Elena's office had been sitting silent, her coffee mug still on the drafting table, her pencils all in a line, sticky notes everywhere with reminders for meetings and dinner plans we never got to keep. I'd kept paying the rent like muscle memory, even though walking in there felt like walking barefoot across shattered glass. That day, I was supposed to pack it all up, finally close that chapter, move forward, whatever that meant. But while I was lost in Elena's old notes, right in the middle of her world, I heard it. Voices sharp and angry out in the hall. I peeked and saw a woman in her late 40s with 2 security guards on either side, moving like she was the law and we were all extras in her show. She didn't knock so much as assault the door. "Open up, this is Victoria Steele, HOA president. You're violating multiple community regulations." The guards looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. She barged in, eyes darting around, clipboard ready to pounce. "Mr. Blackwood, you cannot be in this office. You haven't registered with the HOA. You haven't paid your business operation fees. You haven't gotten approval for whatever this is." She swept her hand across the room like she'd found a crime scene. "Ma'am," I told her, "I've been paying rent here for 3 years. My wife Elena ran her architecture firm here until—" Well, I couldn't finish that sentence even now. Victoria's eyes stayed icy. "That's the problem," she snapped, waving a document with Elena's name on it, one I'd never seen in my life. "She was operating illegally and now you're continuing that violation. We've changed the locks. Notice of violation is posted." Right then, I pulled out my phone and called Jake Morrison, my lawyer, on speaker so everyone could hear. "Jake, can an HOA do this?" he replied. "That's trespassing, unless they have a court order or landlord permission." "Who says they do?" I looked Victoria right in the eye. She spat out something about special authorities and difficult situations, her voice dripping with menace like she was used to getting her way, no questions asked. Then right there in front of everyone, she snatched my phone and hung up. "Pretty sure that's assault, but who's counting?" Before she stormed out, she leaned in, voice low and dangerous. "There are people in this community who don't want you here. People who remember things about your wife that you might not know." Then she dropped the hammer. "Emergency HOA meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. You'll understand then why you don't belong here." And with that, she swept out security guards in tow. I sat back down in Elena's office, surrounded by her dreams and sticky notes. One in particular, "Call Garrett for lunch," still clung to her monitor, and I swear for a second I could almost hear her telling me not to back down. But what did Victoria mean about Elena? Honest to God, Elena was the straightest arrow I'd ever met. Unless I remembered something. Right before she died, Elena had told me about some important papers in the safe at home in case anything ever happens to me. At the time, I'd brushed it off as another one of those cautious spousal chats, but now, man, I had chills. That night, a text popped up from an unknown number. "Your absence from tomorrow's meeting will be considered an admission of guilt. You have 24 hours to leave. Don't make us use stronger measures." Stronger measures from an HOA. I couldn't sleep thinking about what Elena had been trying to protect. Next morning, I walked into the HOA meeting and felt like Daniel in the lion's den. 30 residents crammed in, all staring at me like I'd run over their dog. Victoria was up front, projector running the first slide, reading "Blackwood violations a community threat." I noticed Deputy Martinez, our local cop, posted in the corner, quietly talking to a man in a suit. Something about the way Martinez watched Victoria told me he'd seen more than his share of bullies. Victoria went all in: parking violations, noise complaints, and the big one, operating an unregistered business. Then she dropped the bomb. Outstanding fines and fees now total $50,000. I almost laughed out loud. Elena hadn't run a casino out of that little office, just blueprints, late nights, and dreams. I stood up. "Miss Steele, I'd like to see the law that gives you the right to impose those fines. I've been paying rent and there's no revenue sharing agreement in my lease." She shot back with a smile like broken glass. The HOA has comprehensive oversight, special municipal authority. I caught Deputy Martinez perking up notebook ready. As an engineer, I know a bluff when I see one. Let me see the municipal authorization because my lawyer says commercial and residential regulations are different. Her confidence flickered. Mr. Blackwood, are you questioning the authority of this democratically elected board? Oh, now I was the villain. But Elena's words echoed in my head about that safe at home. I excused myself, ignoring Victoria's screech about contempt, and raced home. Hands shaking, I spun the safe's combo, our anniversary. Inside, a letter in Elena's handwriting. If you're reading this, you're probably dealing with Victoria Steele. Everything in here is real, legal, and ours. The property deed at the bottom shows the truth. I love you. At the very bottom was the deed, not a copy, but the real deal. Turns out we didn't just rent office space. We owned the entire 15-acre complex, every unit, every patch of grass, even the community center where Victoria was holding court. I drove back with this deed in my briefcase, adrenaline making me bold. I didn't show my hand right away, just watched Victoria keep spinning her web. But then, right on cue, sirens wailed. Victoria, in true Shakespearean fashion, threw herself in front of the police car, shouting about trespassing. Deputy Martinez asked me to explain myself, and I pulled out the deed. Officer, I'm Garrett Blackwood, and I own all of this. The crowd went dead silent. Victoria turned 100 shades of angry, rifling through her paperwork, accusing me of forgery. Martinez took one look at my deed and turned to her. Ma'am, this looks legitimate. And just like that, her empire started to crumble. Mrs. Chen, my neighbor, sweet old lady, who Elena used to bring soup to, raised her hand and asked Mrs. Steele, "Why are we treating Mr. Blackwood like a criminal? He's always been good to us." Victoria turned on her voice, gone silkily, threatening. "Perhaps you've forgotten what happened to Mrs. Patterson when she defended someone who broke the rules. She had to move away very suddenly. The room chilled. You could feel everyone waking up to the monster in their midst." I pressed, asking for the specific law backing up her so-called special authority. Victoria's face lit up, loving the attention. She even had slides about municipal oversight, claiming micro-government powers. But I wasn't buying it, and neither was Martinez, who was taking notes like a man about to write an arrest report. That's when Victoria's lawyer, Jake Wellington, came racing up with some bogus property transfer agreement supposedly signed by Elena. Only as Deputy Martinez's radio suddenly blared, the FBI was on its way with a federal warrant for Wellington. The crowd gasped as FBI agents swarmed in, seizing computers, printers, and boxes of forged documents. Turns out the HOA was a front for a multi-state forgery ring, federal seals, college degrees, you name it. Wellington, handcuffed, started spilling his guts. Victoria had blackmailed him into forging Elena's signature because Elena had uncovered their criminal operation. Mrs. Chen came forward with a secret recording from her apartment, Victoria threatening Elena, warning that people who don't cooperate sometimes have accidents, sometimes they have strokes. The word landed like a gunshot. FBI agents swarmed Victoria Martinez, reading her rights. Even as she shrieked about protecting the community, residents were already calling their families, telling them they'd just witnessed a criminal empire fall. 3 months later, Elena's old office was the new Community Design Center named in her honor, with Mrs. Chen elected as HOA president and a plaque out front that read, "Transparency. Respect. Never abuse power." The FBI exposed the full extent of Victoria's fraud, and new laws got passed to keep this from happening elsewhere. The hardest part was learning the real cause of Elena's death, stress induced by Victoria's reign of terror. But building the design center, offering free help to families, turning grief into hope, that was my way of fighting back. Now, when I see young couples dreaming of a home, I think of Elena's last words to me about turning love into a legacy. Some battles are worth fighting. Some truths are worth dying for. And some legacies are built from standing up to bullies, even if it costs you everything. So tell me, do you think HOA power has gone too far? What would you have done in my place? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about justice, community, and how we can all make sure this kind of abuse never happens again.